The Kethari war machine had been unstoppable for 7 centuries. Across 43 star systems, their crystalline vessels had swept away entire civilizations with methodical precision. Their warriors moved like liquid mercury, their weapons carved reality itself, and their tactics had never known defeat. The galaxy trembled at the mention of their name, and even the oldest races had bent the knee rather than face extinction. That changed on Zirion Prime. Commander Thane Reacher of the Terran Colonial Marines stood atop the rubble of what had once been the Planetary Defense Headquarters. Around him, the bodies of the last defenders lay scattered like broken dolls. His armor was cracked, his rifle nearly depleted, and blood seeped from a dozen wounds that should have killed him hours ago. Yet he remained standing, defiant against the approaching tide of silver death. The Kethari had landed their forces 3 days prior, 50,000 of their finest warriors, supported by atmospheric processors that would terraform Xerion Prime to their specifications within a week. The human colony's entire military force had numbered barely 2,000, mostly militia with outdated equipment. It should have been a slaughter lasting mere hours. Instead, it had become something else entirely. Thane watched as the Kethari phalanxes approached his position with their characteristic fluid precision. Their commander, a towering figure whose crystalline carapace reflected the dying light of Zirion's twin suns, raised its plasma lance in what their species considered a gesture of respect before execution. Human, the alien's voice resonated through translation matrices. You have fought with honor, unknown to your species. We offer you swift death. Thane spat blood and raised his rifle one final time. Counteroffer, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. Go to hell. The Kethari commander tilted its angular head, processing the human's response. In 7 centuries of conquest, no species had maintained such defiance in the face of certain death. They had seen fear, desperation, even madness, but this human's eyes held something else. Something that made even the seasoned alien warrior pause. You know your death changes nothing, the commander stated. Your colony falls today. Your species will follow within the cycle. Maybe, Thane admitted, checking his weapon's power cell. But you'll remember us. As the Kethari forces began their final advance, the sky above Zirion Prime suddenly blazed with new light. What had appeared to be a distant star revealed itself as something far more significant, a massive displacement signature that sent ripples through space-time itself. The Kethari commander's sensors screamed warnings as a ship dropped out of hyperspace directly above the battlefield. But calling it a ship was inadequate. It was a mobile fortress, a titan of metal and energy that dwarfed even the largest Kethari dreadnoughts. Its hull bore the scars of 1,000 battles, and weapons batteries that could crack planets studded its flanks. TC's retribution had arrived. Thane felt his knees buckle with relief as he recognized the profile of humanity's most feared warship. Legends spoke of the retribution, how it had held the line at Alpha Centauri, how it had broken the vegan blockade, how its captain had once stared down an entire alien armada and emerged victorious. He had never believed the stories were true. The Kethari forces, who had never known fear, suddenly understood what it meant to be outmatched. Captain Sarah Chen's voice echoed across the battlefield through the ship's external communication arrays. Her words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. Kethari forces. This is the Terran battleship Retribution. You have exactly 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from this planet. The alien commander looked up at the massive vessel, its tactical systems calculating odds of victory and finding only statistical impossibilities. The Retribution's weapons were already locked onto every major Kethari position. Its fighter bays had deployed wings of interceptors that moved like angry hornets around the larger vessel. Human vessel, the commander transmitted, struggling to maintain dignity in the face of overwhelming force. We do not acknowledge your authority. This world was claimed by right of conquest. Chen's response came not in words, but in action. A single particle beam lanced down from the Retribution's main battery, precisely striking the Ketheri command vessel in orbit. The alien ship, which had been considered unsinkable by every military analyst in the galaxy, simply vaporized in a burst of brilliant light. 20 seconds, Chen announced calmly. The transformation that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Ketheri, the unstoppable force that had conquered civilizations, began to retreat. Not in their usual orderly fashion, but with something approaching panic. Their perfect formations broke apart as individual units scrambled for extraction points. But Thane, still standing atop his makeshift fortress of rubble and bodies, called out across the battlefield. "Hey!" His voice, amplified by his armor's speakers, cut through the chaos. The retreating aliens paused, looking back at the human who had defied them for 3 days. "Tell your people something for me. Tell them that humans don't give up. Ever. And tell them that this is what happens when you make us angry." As if to punctuate his words, the Retribution fired a salvo that turned the Ketheri atmospheric processors into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The alien commander, now boarding an evacuation transport, transmitted one final message. "This conflict is not over, human." Thane smiled grimly as medical teams from the Retribution began landing around his position. "No," he agreed, "but now you know who you're fighting." Within an hour, Xerion Prime was free. Within a day, news of the Ketheri retreat had spread across the galaxy. The Invincible Army had been turned back by a single human's refusal to surrender and the timely arrival of humanity's greatest warship. But the real victory wasn't tactical, it was psychological. For the first time in 7 centuries, the Ketheri had learned that some prey could bite back. And across the galaxy, other species began to whisper a new truth: humanity was not to be underestimated. The stars had witnessed something unprecedented that day, the moment when defiance met overwhelming force, and defiance won.